All right, welcome back to the channel. So, Errol Spence Jr. will be fighting Danny Garcia for the IBF and the WBC championships. And there are, there's a lot of doubt about what's going to happen in this fight. Shawn Porter of Showtime Sports and a former WBC and a former IBF champion gives his take on the outcome of that fight. Let's talk about that and give our thoughts on it afterwards in this video. All right. Shawn Showtime Porter, one of the best fighters in the world over the last decade, IBF welterweight champion of the world, the conqueror of Yo Player, Paulie Malignaggi and Adrian Bronner, holder of the WBC belt, also beat Danny Garcia, beat Yordenis Ugas, lost to Keith Thurman, lost to Errol Spence Jr., but definitely one of the best welterweights in the world, gives his 2 cents on the fight between Errol Spence Jr. and Danny Garcia. And very interesting insights. Basically, he thinks that Danny Garcia is overrated. Now, he didn't call him overrated just overtly, so if it's in the title, just to let you know, I'm telling you how I categorize what he said. I say that Shawn Porter seems to think that Danny Garcia is overrated. Now, he's asked about the fight, and it's on Fight Hype, so you can go check out the interview yourself. It is a good interview. And Shawn Porter is asked about whether or not the fight is going to be a good fight. Adjustments. He talks about he's asked about adjustments. He said, well, what do you think about Errol Spence Jr. and Errol Spence Jr.'s ability to make adjustments? Some people just say that he just comes forward, and if he doesn't, and if he just, if he has one game plan, that's what Errol Spence is going to do. He's gonna put one game plan out there, and if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't, and he's not going to make adjustments, right? And then he also he asked about Danny Garcia, and moves on with the adjustments it talks about Danny Garcia. So what he says about Errol Spence Jr. not being able to make adjustments, he says that messing up the story, but this is important. The interviewer also said that it appeared that Errol Spence Jr. couldn't make adjustments with Shawn Porter in Shawn Porter's fight. Now, Shawn Porter said, well, yes, Errol Spence Jr. is the type of guy that can make adjustments. I've seen him in other fights make adjustments, right? And, change things up on fighters. So I've seen him do it. And in my fight, I saw him make adjustments. It's just that his adjustments didn't work as well because, what I was doing in the ring. But Errol Spence Jr. is definitely the type of fighter that can make adjustments. Danny Garcia, he said, on the other hand, Danny Garcia is a one-trick pony. When I prepared for Danny Garcia, we knew what Danny Garcia was going to do coming into the fight. He did exactly what we thought he was going to do in the fight from the beginning of the fight all the way to the end of the fight, and I never saw him make an adjustment. I think he also mentioned, or if he didn't mention, you could also see that was the case in the Mauricio Herrera fight when Mauricio Herrera started fighting on the back foot. Danny Garcia really couldn't deal with it. If you look back at the Zab Judah fight and how Zab Judah survived against Danny Garcia, when Zab Judah was fighting with him, fighting close to him, Danny Garcia was was doing his work. But when Zab Judah started moving around and using his lateral movement more, Danny Garcia had a much harder time finding him, catching him, and he made it through that fight. So I believe that is what Shawn Porter is talking about as far as the inability of Danny Garcia to make adjustments. He also brought up the point about Danny Garcia that two of the big strengths of Danny Garcia. He said, like, when you look at Danny Garcia has a reputation for having excellent timing, and the fact that he can really pop. And so, but he was like, all that can be neutralized. He's like, with the timing, he said the timing you can neutralize the timing, by doing XYZ. Listen to the interview for what he said on that exactly. And then he says, as far as the power, he's like, if you stay out of range, or you're in close tight with him, he can't do anything with that power. You're muffling and muting that power. So you can take away that power as well. He's like, I've seen Danny Garcia really, really sleep some dudes, but there's ways that you can get around that. And, you can neutralize a guy. You can neutralize a guy's power. So he's like, man, I don't see that really being an issue, with Errol Spence Jr. Now, the thing but he kept through the interview. I just gotta harp on this. He kept throughout the whole interview talking about the difference between, Errol Spence Jr. was fighting him when he showed all of these problems. Man, look, that's not the way that I remember it. I'm just gonna be 100 with you, be a buck with you. That's not how I remember it. How I remember it is Errol Spence Jr. saying before the fight started that he was gonna knock Shawn Porter out. He said that's what he was going to do. He's going to knock you out. After the Mikey Garcia fight, he said, yeah, I showed everybody I can box, but now I'm going back to bulldozing people, right? He didn't say people. He used the N-word, but you get my point. He said, I'm going back to bulldozing people, right? I want to get dudes out of there. So he didn't get the knockout against Mikey Garcia, so he came in there against Shawn Porter, and he was telling Shawn Porter straight up, I'm knocking you out. And he didn't play. He came in there and tried to knock him out. He stood toe-to-toe with Shawn Porter, kept going at Shawn Porter. And man, dude, like Shawn Porter, it was a tough fight, but I think it was a tough fight because, dude, every fight is going to be a tough fight with Shawn Porter. And I don't think that Errol Spence Jr. really, unless Errol's going to do more of what Kell Brook did, which was get in close, be the stronger guy, hold him, right? Hold him, push him back, tie him up like that and keep it from happening and make the fight go like that. That wouldn't make it as physical a fight, but it's still going to be a very tactical fight and not an easy thing to do with Shawn Porter. Shawn Porter is a very high level guy, but when Shawn says that Errol was unable to make certain adjustments and things like that, dog, Errol wasn't trying to adjust. He's trying to knock you out. And in the 11th round, when he dropped you, that's what he was going for. You know what I mean? That's what he was going for. And he got what he was going for. He just wasn't able to get it like he wanted to get it. You know what I mean? Because that wasn't no flash knockdown. That was a bop, got you, because he was right in the middle. And he was outworking Shawn Porter. Yeah, Shawn Porter was letting his hands go. Shawn Porter was landing nice shots. But Shawn Porter was taking a lot of work to that body, man. But I will give Shawn Porter his credit. He swung, he was able to get out of the ring, get off the ropes very well and turn around and, go switch from the being defense on the ropes, switch off the ropes and get Errol Spence Jr. back on the ropes to let some punches go. But when he did turn him, man, it wasn't terribly effective. It wasn't terribly effective, but the most effective fight of the fight was coming with Errol Spence. But anyway, I say all that to say, really, that I just don't believe Errol Spence Jr. was trying to adjust to Shawn Porter. As far as that means for the fight, though, with Errol and Danny Garcia, that is pretty much what I said it was going to be. If Errol Spence Jr., or at least that's the same take that Shawn Porter has, is very similar to the take that I have. As long as Errol Spence Jr. goes in there and fights a tactical fight, fights Danny Garcia from the outside, piles up points on him, or if he gets on all the way on the inside and, he's making sure that, he's able to catch or smother that left hook, that he's going to beat Danny Garcia. The only reason I think that the only reason that there's a lot of question about it is because of the car accident with Errol Spence, which is not a completely unreasonable, belief for people to have. If a guy's in a bad car accident, and people want to say, I want to see for myself, how he's healed. I think that that's fair. I don't think that is I don't think that's excessive criticism. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comments section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.